cannon, and he gets hit by one of his own men, and his helmet and head and neck bends.
Protection right now, because the last 3 or 4 passes that they've thrown, the Jets have...
If I help you up, are you good? Take a walk with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here are the incidents, which range from on-field collisions to off-field incidents and serve as tragic reminders of the vulnerability of life, even for those who appear unstoppable on the football field. Jason Pierre-Paul's hand injury due to firework explosion. NFL player Jason Pierre-Paul's life took a terrifying turn on July 4, 2015. He let off a firework in an attempt to take part in the festivities, but catastrophe struck in an instant. The wind kept blowing out his lighter despite his 7 attempts to put flame to fuse. He gave it another go, and suddenly there was an eruption. Pierre-Paul lowered himself to the grass. Then he heard Jermaine scream, "Your hand!" in fear. Even in the sharp photos of his x-rays, the explosion left his hand disfigured. The aftermath was a problematic experience for Jason. He spent a staggering 2.5 weeks in the hospital, undergoing 10 surgeries in an attempt to save as much of his life as possible. After waking up from the anesthesia, he was faced with the harsh truth that his hand would never be the same.
Cannon, and he gets hit by one of his own men, and his helmet and head and neck bends.
Trenton Cannon's scary head and neck injury. Cannon's head unintentionally got hit by a teammate's leg while he was trying to tackle DJ Dallas, bending his neck at a very awkward angle after knocking his head into Talanoa Hufanga's thigh. The training personnel from San Francisco raced onto the field right away to support Cannon's neck. Eventually, he was lifted onto a stretcher, strapped onto a backboard, and driven off the field in an ambulance. Later, Cannon's 49ers confirmed that he was in stable condition and would spend the night at the hospital being monitored.
Dane was a little bit of a victim of friendly fire right there from Edmonds, who came in at the end, and you see his head just get driven backward.
Dane Jackson head and neck injury. In the last minute of the first half, Jackson hurt himself tackling Traylon Burks following a 12-yard gain. Swiftly approaching to assist with the tackle, Edmonds thrust a shoulder into Jackson's helmet. Jackson's head and neck snapped back while he was down on his stomach, wrapping Burks. Before the arrival of medical staff, he remained on his back. Jackson lay on the field for several minutes before being helped off the field by an ambulance and placed on a stretcher by his Bills teammates. Jackson underwent some x-rays and a CT scan at Erie County Medical Center. 2 days later, he had spinal stabilization surgery, and he has since regained his ability to walk.
Protection right now, because the last 3 or 4 passes that they've thrown, the Jets have...
Dennis Byrd had a neck injury and died after a car accident. On November 29, 1992, Byrd was injured in the neck during an NFL game against the Kansas City Chiefs. He tried to rush Chiefs quarterback Dave Krieg during the play, but Krieg moved to evade the tackle, causing Byrd to crash with his teammate Scott Mercereau. He ducked his head just in time to avoid colliding with Mercereau's chest. He was unable to walk after the headfirst accident damaged his 5th cervical vertebrae. Byrd received care from the physicians and trainers for 7 minutes. With his lower body paralyzed, Byrd was put onto a cart and wheeled off the field through the stadium's west end. After that, he was brought to Manhattan's Lenox Hill Hospital to have spinal cord surgery. The Jets briefly utilized an Ichthys logo with his uniform number 90, while he was recovering. Byrd was able to walk again following intensive physical therapy. But unfortunately, years later, on October 15, 2016, Byrd lost his life in a horrifying car accident on a highway. According to the Oklahoma Highway Patrol report, a 17-year-old driver from Claremore swerved his Ford Explorer into the oncoming lane, striking Byrd's Hummer H2. Byrd was in his 50s. His 12-year-old kid sustained injuries in the collision as well.
Here's the injury. 59 is Brown.
Reggie Brown's 1997 neck injury. During his final game of the 1997 season, Brown assisted on a tackle of Adrian Morrell, the quarterback for the New York Jets, and suffered a spinal cord injury. On what seemed to be a regular play, Brown was hurt when a Jets lineman, Lamont Burns, fell backward into his neck while making a tackle. A Jets lineman's back was struck by Brown's helmet, severely injuring his spinal cord. Brown's esophagus stopped functioning as a result of the accident. He turned purple and blue and needed CPR while on the field. At the other end of the field, 2 Lions players hurried down to the end zone, where they took control of the stretcher and alerted the EMTs to the severe situation. He could not move. After a while, he ran out of breath too. Thankfully, he managed to retrieve it and was removed from the area. Nonetheless, he suffered from paralysis. The medical personnel loaded Brown into the back of the ambulance after nearly 15 minutes, first placing him on a stretcher and then a backboard. The emergency surgery was done to fuse his vertebrae.
If I help you up, are you good? Take a walk with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Myles Garrett Porsche accident. Myles Garrett, a defensive player for the Cleveland Browns, was accused of speeding at 65 miles per hour on a 45-mile-per-hour speed restriction when he crashed his 2021 Porsche 911 Turbo S in Sharon Township, Ohio. Garrett and a female passenger were inside the Porsche. The sports vehicle skidded off the road and halted on a grassy embankment. The 26-year-old was seen sitting on the grass with blood on his hand and a torn t-shirt in body cam footage from a policeman who was dispatched to the crash scene. He injured his shoulder, strained his biceps, and had scratches and bruises. In the background, his passenger is visible lying on the grass. He was not seriously hurt. He lost control of his Porsche while attempting to dodge an animal. Firefighters and paramedics led Garrett away from his automobile with care. Both were attended to by a paramedic and taken to hospital. There was a break in the windshield and a broken back glass. The front bumper was off, revealing the enormous, twisted, and broken radiators in front of the wheels. The Porsche's back bumper was still in place, but many fasteners had come loose, causing the outside edges to peel off. All the panels, including the doors, appeared to be broken. The airbags of the vehicle were also shown deploying in the videos. Darryl Stingley got paralyzed after spinal cord injury. Jack Tatum, a defensive back for the Oakland Raiders, hit Stingley during a 1978 preseason game at Oakland Coliseum. Tatum and Stingley clashed as he stretched for an errant pass. Stingley lost consciousness after falling to the ground after the strike. Stingley suffered a compression to his spinal cord and a break to his 4th and 5th cervical vertebrae when Stingley's helmet made contact with Tatum's shoulder pad. When the players around realized he wasn't breathing, they called for the training staff, who showed up on the field with a stretcher in no time. Stingley's head was strapped onto a stretcher and immobilized with a brace while he was transported off the arena in a stretcher. Although he finally regained some movement in his right arm, he was quadriplegic for the rest of his life.
Not what any of us want to see, and everybody's around him.
Damar Hamlin goes to cardiac arrest. The game took place in Cincinnati, and in the first quarter, 24-year-old safety Hamlin tackled Bengals receiver T. Higgins, sending him to the ground. Following the tackle, Hamlin got to his feet and took 2 steps before collapsing. Higgins was unharmed. On the field, CPR was given to Hamlin after he went into cardiac arrest and his heartbeat was restored. After that, he was brought in critical condition to the hospital. The reason behind Mr. Hamlin's cardiac arrest around 9 minutes into the Cincinnati Bengals game is when he collided with an opposing team receiver, a blow to his chest caused an arrhythmia or irregular heartbeat. It induced commotio cordis, a rare illness when the heart quivers and stops pumping blood effectively, resulting in abrupt cardiac arrest.
And the safety, and I believe 31 right there, Cam Chancellor. The other safety gets his hand on
Johnny Knox's career-ending neck injury. Quarterback Caleb Haney completed a 17-yard pass that caused Knox to fumble when he was hit by the Seahawks rookie safety Cam Chancellor. Knox automatically ran toward the direction of the exposed football after fumbling close to the finish of the 17-yard reception against the Seattle Seahawks. Knox's football career came to an ugly and terrible end when 285-pound defensive tackle Anthony Hargrove tackled him from the front. Knox's body was forced to bend backward after colliding with the Seattle defender head-on. The good news was that he was not paralyzed. However, Knox required a stretcher to leave the field, and a nearby ambulance quickly transported the 24-year-old receiver to a hospital. Knox would require stabilization surgery for his shattered and damaged vertebrae once he arrived. A fractured dislocation of the thoracic lumbar junction accompanied by severe nerve injury. A crack ran down the middle of his back. 14 months after his spinal fusion, Knox's football career all but ended. These stories are powerful reminders of the dangers of playing professional football and the value of taking safety precautions both on and off the field. NFL players are not immune to the game's risks or the unpredictable nature of life, despite their exceptional athleticism and fortitude.